So we're going to talk today about the role of justice in rationing medical resources. Well, I have here doing emergencies, but not necessarily only doing emergencies. So in response to yes. Thanks for reminding me, and we should have done that last week. Yeah, right. The short answer is no, but I don't have. You guys are going to do most of the talking today, okay? So I have a few PowerPoints a few slides that I will post. So most of you, in your discussions, which were really good, and it was a delightful struggle to keep up with all the postings and all the ideas that you have, and all of you had the same idea that none of the hospitals' rationing system were good ones. That they all had deficiencies, okay, and you're all right about that, but it's like that's what that's what happens with rationing. It's not going to be something that it's you're going to be able to capture everything. It's hard decisions, and that's something that on the national level, in terms of rationing medical resources, we don't want to, because it's hard decisions and because it's not politically favorable. Politicians don't want to make those hard decisions, and hence we have what amounts to be implicit rationing decisions that nobody wants to admit to. So you're all right. It's these policies that the hospitals had were not something that we all would aspire to. But in times of scarce resources, hard decisions have to be made. So anyway, having said that, let me. So you all know this already, and I'll just put this up for the video purposes. And there's Hospital A. Just to remind, I don't think you probably forgot about it already. So Hospital A is prophylaxis of staph. Hospital B is treatment of the sickest, the principle of treating the worst off, and with prophylactic equipment for the healthcare workers. Hospital C is treatment of the patients most likely to benefit, and namely those who present with symptoms that have not lasted for more than 48 hours, because that's how the drug works. And then Hospital D takes, I guess they didn't want to make any hard decisions, right? They just say, oh, let's just give it to everyone, right? Essentially. That's right, regardless of severity. So if you cough, you got it, I guess. And Hospital E, to the younger patients, and thinking about the fair innings approach, which is a phrase articulated by some British philosophers. I guess they must have watched the baseball game somehow. But okay, so all right, so what conclusions did you all have? So there's three groups. So sometimes I like to actually go in a linear order. So why don't we go with group 1, 3, and 2? So group 1, who's the, and I'm just going to take notes. So who's the spokesperson for group 1? Group 1? Group 1, identify yourself. Raise your hand. Okay. Okay, so only one person in group 1. Okay, well, I see you guys have really gelled. All right, group. Yeah. So, all right. So, what did you all decide? And you know, I fully realize there were minor, maybe second best answers. So, you know, lay those things on me as well. Okay.
So the majority of our group chose hospital E, but
Hospital what?
hospital E.
E.
Yeah, but I chose.
Gee, was that a last minute conversion?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hospital E.
But I chose hospital C.
And you're this, but you chose hospital C.
Yeah.
So, are you giving the justification for E or C?
C.
C. Okay. All right. So
My reason was that this hospital policy incorporates two principles. First is maximizing the total benefit by saving the most lives, and equal treatment based on first come first served basis.
what, equal treatment?
Based on first come first served basis. And I think this hospital treat patient fairly because whoever will make within the 48 hours to the hospital of the onset of symptom, regardless of age, severity, and occupation, will receive oseltamivir. Also, this recommendation is according to WHO recommendation to treat all patients within 48 hours, because the drug is most effective within this window time period. So I think it will be a good reason for accountability. And because hospital C has specified its target population, and also it will.
I'm sorry. What was that last point?
Because it has, the hospital C has specified its target population, that is whoever with onset of symptom within 48 hours, and also hospital C is not treating and not giving medication for prophylaxis. Therefore, I think its medication will deplete slowly as compared to other hospitals.
I'm sorry. It will what?
Because of two reasons. That is the target population within 48 hours,
Right.
And not giving medication as prophylactic measure will result in slow depletion of its stock of medication.
It's going to have a lower depletion rate?
Yeah.
Okay. Compared to all the other hospitals?
Yeah, compared to hospitals like E, which is giving medication to probable and confirmed cases both.
But just to the young people.
Yeah, but again, it is giving prophylactically as well, right?
I'm not. Well, what does prophylaxis mean?
Exposed.
As a precaution.
Exposed.
Exposed cases.
Yeah. Right. So I guess I'm not sure if probable. Probably a point of clarification. I'm not sure if probable versus confirmed. So confirmed would be some laboratory testing, and probable is just based on symptoms, as opposed to just exposed. So you would have exposure, probable, and confirmed. But probable have symptoms. If you're just exposed, the concept is you don't have symptoms. But okay, good. So, anything else?
Some of the disadvantages I saw in this population is the under-treatment of young population.
We're still talking about Hospital C?
Yeah.
So any other reasons for Hospital C?
No, that's it.
Okay, so So we're saying that Hospital C is, which I guess what we might as well start thinking in terms of these words. So we're looking at concepts of best outcomes, right? We're looking at issues about equity. And in this case, equitable access. What else?
Fairness.
What's that?
Fairness of distribution.
Well, fairness. I'm glad you brought that up. We'll talk more about, a little bit later on, and in the next 2 weeks, what do we mean by fairness? What does that mean, fairness? I mean, what does that word mean, fair?
I think it means making. Oh, go ahead. I was thinking it means everyone has at least some opportunity to do something or receive something.
Okay, that's one definition. Equal opportunity. I'll actually talk more about that next week. Barazay?
I was going to say maybe equal access, the same thing.
Equal access, okay, right. Okay, yes?
I think fairness does not actually means equal access. It has one part of fairness is like equal opportunity, but the most important part is the distribution of intervention or treatment where it is most needed or justified. So,
Well, I mean, we ought to. I mean, everything that everyone has said is talking about distribution. So how do we know? How do we determine when a particular distribution is fair? That's what we're talking about, distribution. Do we want equitable access? Is it based on best outcomes? Is it based on equal opportunity for everyone? The issue is that there are many different ways to be fair, to have a fair distribution, and that's what we're doing, right? In these all different hospitals rationing scheme is we're trying to determine what is the fairest distribution. The problem is we have disagreements on principles to use to distribute, and at the end of the day, we hope. And now you're saying Hospital C is the fairest, but we're going to hear in a few minutes why Hospital E is the fairest. So when we talk about fairness, we have to justify it on some organizing principle or principles. So I mean, to say that something is fair is to essentially state a conclusion, but then you have to tell me why you think it's fair. And we'll talk, and the next few weeks, that concept will hopefully become clearer. Equity, if we're talking about equal access, is probably more like a egalitarian type of justice framework, as opposed to best outcomes, which is more like utilitarian, right? looking for the aggregate welfare, regardless of whether it's equal or not. Okay, so all right, so that's Hospital C. For your group, who's the spokesperson for Hospital E? Yes.
I can do E.
Okay.
So we summarized basically the reasons for majority of us who picked E. It supports the most allocation principles that are set out in the meetings, agreeable to most stakeholders, address life.
When you say it's agreeable to the allegation principles in the readings?
Allocation.
Right.
Yeah.
Which ones?
We listed some like instrumental value, maximizing and saving the most quality.
Well, yeah, when you say, okay, yeah.
Sorry.
You're reading too fast for me. Okay, I'm sorry. So, instrumental value, explain that.
Gosh, I forgot. Someone help me chime in. For my group, instrumental value.
Pull a friend, pull the audience.
Yes.
Prophylaxis of staff. It is.
No. Gosh, why am I forgetting? Let me look at the reading.
Okay, let's see
Somebody
what
remember?
Hospital E is all about. Okay, just the fair innings approach.
Social usefulness, like the nurses.
Yes, thank
What's
you.
that?
The social usefulness.
Why? The younger people?
No, like of the hospital staff.
No, we're talking about Hospital E?
Yes.
Which hospital?
For the
Oh,
youngest
E.
patient.
Which hospital
Yeah,
are you talking
correct. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So, what else did we say? Also, maximizes benefit by conserving the antiviral supplies and directs allocation toward treatment, and specifically to those with fewest life years. In other words, the most benefit from a limited resource.
But why are you saying that targeting younger patients is? I mean, what was the overall rationale for targeting younger patients and hence excluding the elderly,
I think
whoever they might be?
Yeah, elderly. Obviously, this is not what we would say the most comprehensive or best approach. I mean, elderly is definitely a vulnerable population, but we looked at the younger patients as a vulnerable population as well, and so therefore.
Really? In what way? Oh, you mean now? Are we talking about
in terms of
what age group? I guess.
That's another thing
Yeah.
that we talked about limitations, because
Yeah.
the limitation for Hospital E didn't specifically state younger, the actual age range of younger, but
Okay.
so that's debatable, but I think
Okay.
most of us assumed that these are very young patients, and therefore they're the vulnerable population, and therefore if the resources are given to them, save the most lives or be more beneficial, and the antiviral supplies won't deplete as fast as if we did a full comprehensive approach, as in Hospital D, for instance, and just give to everybody. So that was kind of our justification. We know there are limitations, which I was gonna
Sure.
read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think one of the reasons that we liked Hospital E in terms of why I look at the younger patients is in terms of fairness, and the fair innings principle is that those who are older have had more life to live.
Sure. Okay.
So that it's fair to give the younger people who have not had that opportunity to live longer a chance by giving them that resource, the antivirals. So that's kind of where the fairness of having them have priority to the drug comes in. And if you're forced to ration those resources, given the list of options, that's kind of where we thought the list of rationing options was the most fair, to give the
Okay, so is it fair to say that the appeal of the fair innings principle held a lot of weight? Everyone should have their fair chance of a reasonable lifespan.
It was for me, and that's
Yeah.
why I ended up selecting E
Yeah,
over
right.
some of the other
Okay.
slight limitations.
Would it also contribute to a best outcomes approach as well?
Well, some of the older, we're talking the older end of the spectrum patients may have certain comorbidities that may make them be less successful with the drug, so that a younger population may have a better outcome with the drug, so that in this situation, perhaps there may be a better outcome by selectively targeting a younger population. You could probably make an argument for that a younger population would benefit more from this particular treatment, given what influenza can.
Right. Yeah, and as these epidemics occur, one keeps on gaining data to see who are the most vulnerable in terms of dying, from the illness. Like during the H1N1, we had initially data that pregnant women, if they came down with the H1N1, their mortality rate was quite high. So there was, in terms of worst off principle, there was a move to push them to the top of the priority list. Okay. All right, good. So, what did you guys didn't like about E? Split you up.
Well, we definitely talked about the what constitutes young and old, and then also the fact that E didn't specify, using protective equipment for the hospital staff or patient isolation. Those are some of the things that we said we didn't really like about Hospital E.
But you chose Hospital E.
Yes.
Yes, right. Okay. But
Majority of us chose Hospital
yes,
E.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's duly recorded, and it's so. But what swayed you to Hospital E and not Hospital C?
Well, one thing about Hospital C that we discussed was the whole first come first served basis, and even through our readings how it mentioned that it's not necessarily fair and it favors those who, depending on how it's presented, or having for instance within a population how they would advertise first come first served to get the antivirals. It might benefit only those who are wealthy or have access to medication. So we said, in essence, it's not always fair in terms of who gets access to medication. So that was one thing about C we didn't like, in terms of, we felt like Hospital E was more fair in the sense that it can, even though it was focusing a specific population, there wasn't an advantage to particular people who were better off, per se.
So is Hospital C a first come first serve?
Kind of.
I thought that was not.
What's that?
I thought D was the best come first serve.
No, I'm talking about Hospital C. Is Hospital C akin to first come first serve?
It could be.
Well, I mean, you said it was first come first serve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was my impression, because to be effective, the drug has to be given usually within 48 hours anyway, so all the other hospitals would have to use it within that window. So Hospital C is specifying on people showing up first. I thought that was the principle that was based on.
Well, I mean, yeah, Hospital C was Well, treatment of the patients most likely to benefit. I guess there's the and they do define it, namely those with symptoms have not lasted longer than 48 hours. So if somebody showed up, it's a slight variation of first come, first serve, because if someone shows up and they have symptoms for 4 days, right, they would not be served, even though they might have been first to show up. Or, right, so let's say if everyone who is going to show up shows up, then and they all claim first status, then only those who have not lasted longer than 48 hours would get the drug. Those longer than 48 hours would not get the drug, right? Is that a fair interpretation?
I mean,
Yes. Frederick.
Also, I think 48 hours.
No. Is that a fair interpretation?
It is, but it's also dependent on how you define 48 hours. It's subjective.
Well, 48 hours is, I don't know, how do you define 48 hours?
If I come in, and, no, the point I'm saying is, if I come in and you ask me, okay, how long ago did you start having symptoms of where you're exposed? And I know that if
48 hours, I swear to God.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know that if I don't say 48 hours, I'm not going to get treatment. I'll say 48 hours to get treatment.
What's that?
I'm saying if I'm a patient and I know that, okay, now you are trying to treat those who are exposed in 48 hours, I'm going to tell you 48 hours so I can get treatment.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's assume everyone's honest, okay? I mean, that's the policy, okay? We have to deal with these, you know, if you get caught in a lie, you know, you won't get the medicine. But it's not because there are because it's conditional. It's not a pure first come first serve. Yes.
Well, the only thing that I was thinking of that kind of makes it first come first serve is because it's going to result in a faster depletion. So if you're one of the first people to get sick and you go to the hospital and you go there within 48 hours and you get the medication, but if you get sick later on after the hospital depletes its supply, then you're out of luck.
Oh well, right, but again, if you show up, if it's longer than 48 hours, then you know, tough luck. Did you want to add something?
I'll just pass for now.
Oh, okay. All right, pass. Yes, Helena.
But by that token, then doesn't that mean that all of the hospitals are first come first serve in that case?
Well, no, this is a modified first come first serve because if you show up first, but it's more than 48 hours, you don't get the drug. Now, having said all that, is there anything inequitable about this policy in any way? You want to take back your card?
So
okay.
the inequality is that people who are more advantaged are, just like in the usual first come first serve basis, those people are more likely to present sooner with their symptoms than people who have less traditional access to healthcare. So that along the principles of first come first serve that are disparate in the usual principle, this conditional principle is still would have disparities because
right. people don't have equal access,
and people who are more educated and more health knowledgeable would be more likely to present sooner than people who are less educated and less knowledgeable and less health aware. So then you still have a disparate presentation.
Right, and right. So in fact, is it? Sorry, to keep bringing up this word, has no relationship to justice, but would it be fair to say, but by the end of the next 3 weeks, you'll be, you know, using the word fair wherever you go, when you go down to the bar. But anyway, if that's what you do. But so is it fair to say that all of these hospitals have some inherent issues with in ensuring that they're reaching out to the marginalized groups. What do you think? Yeah, Jennifer.
I say there's definitely people that are left out in each scenario. There's winners and losers. People are going to get, and some people are going to lose out in getting it, even though they could qualify.
Well, let's say some. Right. But I guess I'm looking at. Well, here the 48 hours makes it, I think, more clear that people who don't have, for whatever reason, the ability to get to the hospital within 48 hours with their symptoms, as opposed to other people who have better access to hospitals, will be left out. But I mean, having said that, that does not make the 48-hour rule unreasonable. Okay. All right. Good. So so there's an equity issue with that, and I guess in Hospital E, well, I mean, you're purposefully leaving out the elderly, whoever they are, because you thought the fair innings approach was a good one. And in fact, what was I going to say? Recently, the kidney allocation system was changed to ensure best outcomes. They decided they want to give the best kidneys to the individuals who would have the better outcomes. Years ago, it used to be time on the waiting list, but we finally figured out that time on the waiting list, similar to this, meant that people who are able to put themselves on the waiting list sooner rather than later would get the kidney sooner rather than later, and who would be on the waiting list sooner rather than later? Those people with better access to the health care, who showed up early on in their kidney illness, and the doctor said, we're going to put you on the list. Yes?
You could also have people on multiple lists, so
yes,
whichever
right.
comes up first.
Yes, right. People, the wealthy people, they took their jets all over the place and put their names on many lists. So now it's best outcomes, and we have data to know who will have the better outcomes with the better kidneys, and you know, no surprise, most of them are younger patients with less comorbidities, and the elderly, or even the young people with more comorbidities, will get the lousy kidneys. We don't say you're getting a lousy kidney, but it is what it is. Okay, good. So we'll say more about. I think we'll probably say more about C. I don't know. We talk about depleted faster. I don't know between without obviously knowing about the demographics. I don't know if Hospital C or Hospital E who would get depleted the fastest. I mean, I would think that again, based on demographics, that Hospital C might be depleted faster, unless Hospital E serves, basically all the playgrounds in the city. But anyway, okay, group 3. What the? Okay.
Okay, so I'll give you some background of our conversation before I tell you what we thought in the end.
Okay, good.
Hospital A, which was Emmanuel's instrumental value principle, the hospital is treating staff because of their potential future importance. Major drawback that we saw was without treatment for patients, there's not much staff can do, so it's an insufficient justification. Hospital B.
I'm sorry, say that last thing again.
So we felt that it was an insufficient justification.
What was that? B.
A?
Yeah.
What is the insufficient?
Yes.
Oh, because without treatment for patients, how are they?
Oh, I see. Without treatment for patients, then you would have staff and no patients, right? They'll all be dead, right? Is that the idea? Okay. All right.
So hospital B, sickest first. Emmanuel in our group finds this flawed. Does not take into account prognosis of the individual or other individuals that may become sicker in the future. Someone who is sicker may have comorbidities that make it harder for them to respond to treatment, maybe a compromised immune system. So how do you always look at the sickest patient and treat them first? In that situation, hospital C may be successful, but how are individuals judged on who will benefit the most beyond the given time frame inclusion?
What do you mean?
Because they say most likely to benefit is someone who presents symptoms within or equal to 48 hours. So, but on what basis, like, do you take into account comorbidities? Do you look at the age? Like, it didn't really say.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Right. They didn't say. I guess for me, I'm looking at the assumption that this is the only factor. If you're there less than 48 hours, you got the drug. Because most likely to benefit because of that. Everything else is not considered.
So what happens if you have someone like with a different age, like a 70-year-old?
That they'll get treated.
Okay.
And so I'll say this now. If you want to have a quick conference call with your group and change your mind, that's fine too. But go ahead. We'll take the prerogative.
You said hospital C is good, but it fails to address relevant factors. D, with the exposed staff, probable cases confirmed, cases good treatment. A lot of people in our group felt that this was the first come, first served principle. We felt that this system favors wealthy and the powerful, and treatment will deplete the fastest in hospital D. So, and then in E, the youngest first emphasizes the desire to maximize the most life years saved as a way of maximizing utility. We felt that this was insufficient. This strategy incorporates the fair ending principle, which reflects the feeling that everyone is entitled to some normal span of health, and anyone failing to achieve this has been cheated, while anyone getting more than this is living on borrowed time. But we felt that this leaves several things undefined, like what is a normal span of health? Who's to say? I mean, if there's a 70-year-old man who has no morbidities besides maybe hearing loss, who exercises every day, and then you have a 20-year-old who is someone with 2 autoimmune illnesses, how do you look and say that the 70-year-old doesn't deserve the treatment just because the youngest is younger and may have more potential? But looking at that situation in particular, the youngest may not have the most potential to live. So,
but just purely on a fair innings approach, what's wrong with that?
Because we don't. I mean, what our debate was, what is a normal span of health?
What do you mean a normal span of health?
That was a definition that I found, and it was saying that in the fair innings principle, it says everyone is entitled to a normal span of health. So.
Or just maybe even looking at quality of life. I mean, it makes the manual makes it sound like you're 20, so therefore the life years or something, you have more life years to use. But I mean, what exactly? I mean, a 7-year-old and a 20-year-old, quality of life plays a big role as well.
Well, let's kick out quality of life. Let's just purely on the numbers. 70 versus 20. Hold on for 2.5 seconds. And so that's what's that? 50. So just purely on the numbers, the 70-year-old has lived 50 more years than the 20-year-old.
What if a 20-year-old has already had the prognosis that they're only going to live 2 more years? Like.
Oh, okay. All right. You want to? Okay. So, all right.
Reality.
Right. So they have some bad illness, right? Okay. So and so we'll throw in those conditions, but still, who would you? Let's say you know the 70-year-old will live another 5 years, and the 20-year-old will live another 2 years. Who would you give it to?
Is the 70-year-old healthy and the 20-year-old?
The 70-year-old will live another 5 years. You check the book of life, and that's the way it is.
I guess the
70-year-old.
Oh, okay. So you're concerned with best outcomes. I'm glad we wrangled it out of you. Okay, and you're one of those. All right, and that though more times than none, the best outcomes might taking all things considered equal or unequal, but the best outcomes may come from treating the younger folks. Rolla? Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I would like just to let you know about this age thing is to link age to productivity. Let's say to compare a 10 years old boy with a 30 years old man and a 70 years old man. So in terms of age, like a 30 years old man is more productive, and a 10 years old boy requires more investment to be productive. You know what I mean?
Well,
age to productivity of a guy, let's say 30 years old and 10 years old.
Yeah, but if you invest in a 10-year-old, you still get more years than the 30-year-old, right?
Aren't many?
Yes, but it requires time for the investment to be productive.
Well, that's what investment is all about.
Yeah, it's financially linking.
So, are you giving an argument against younger people because they haven't matured yet?
No, I'm just giving an opinion, which is not truly my opinion, but it might be linked as such.
I see. So, where do you stand on all this, Rolla? And which group are you with? You're with group 3?
Two.
Oh, two.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll hear from you in just a few minutes. So, I guess it's I'm still searching for a reason why not to like Hospital E. I mean, it's
Are you making assumptions when you say a 20-year-old is more productive or can be more productive than a 70-year-old?
No, I'm just, Lola brought up productivity stuff. I'm just thinking about length of life.
Uh-huh.
Just length of life.
But how many public health measures just look at the numbers, like 50 years more life lived?
Well, no, a lot don't.
A lot don't.
And I'm asking why not?
Because that's when I think that's when quality of life, I feel, comes in. When you instead of looking at 50 years, it could be 50 years of a great life, or it could be 50 years of a really bad
Okay, well, now you're, okay, that's fine. So you want to weed out all and regardless of whether they're 20 or 50,
right?
You want to look at quality of life years, which is fine. But you're still going to weave in the younger folks, even with that concept, right? You just want to get rid of all the disabled people, right? Is that what you want to do?
No.
Is that what you're advocating? All the disabled people, cut them off?
No.
I didn't think so.
No.
Yeah, but, okay. No, but it's well, maybe let's. I keep on thinking about that. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you haven't told me what hospital you like. Okay, sorry.
So after a couple jabs, we finally came to the conclusion to use a combined approach. We had
No, I'm sorry.
No.
That's not fair. Pick a hospital.
No,
ma'am.
we had to narrow it down. That was our first draft. We had.
Well, which one?
Which hospital?
Yes.
The first one that we came up with was to use the hospital A, E, and C.
Oh, okay. You could give me a priority list. That's okay. So hospital A
Right.
came out on top.
Yes. Well, their strategy came out on top in this first combined approach.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So we
Okay.
had vital and irreplaceable healthcare workers as first priority, younger people, then people most likely.
Oh, so hospital A plus E. Right? Younger people?
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
but
okay.
Pieces, most likely. Oh, yeah. Well, just A and E. Exactly.
A and E.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
But then after some debate, there was the whole younger people. Some people in our group felt as though, like, if there's a healthy older person versus a sick young person, that's not necessarily fair. Now I'm scared to say fair. So.
I don't want you to be afraid to say that
I was
word.
just joking, but
It's not one of those other four-letter words, but go ahead.
So then we took out younger people as an inclusion, so we do not exclude an elderly person with more of a likelihood than surviving than a younger person. Then we didn't like the order of that, so we chose to have health care workers as priority, and then second, the most likely to benefit. And then
most likely to benefit.
Mm-hmm.
48 hours, you mean, benefit?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we had to add some more details because we felt that a lot of things were left undefined. And so finally we came up with a system that it would be healthcare workers that have been exposed for equal to or less than 48 hours. And then second to that would be those who are most likely to benefit, but we take into account comorbidities, compromised immune systems, and those who present with symptoms that have not lasted longer than 48 hours. And so, for example, if you have...
I see. Okay.
So we did a couple examples. So if you have a 70-year-old man with no comorbidities, disease onset 24 hours versus an RN who has a disease onset 4 days ago, you pick the 70-year-old man. Then you have a nursing assistant with a disease onset 40 hours ago versus a 20-year-old who's healthy but not a healthcare worker, you pick the healthcare worker. And then you have a healthcare worker with an autoimmune illness presents symptoms 24 hours ago versus a 25-year-old who's otherwise healthy, disease onset the same amount of time. You pick the healthcare worker.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So that's what we decided. But we do have a minority opinion if you want to.
Oh, okay. Who's a...
I know were some people who thought that age should still be, the fair innings pistol should still be included.
Thought what?
The fair innings age
okay.
should still be included in that.
In that mix.
Mix somewhere.
Right. Did you say mix or mess?
Not a mess. Not a mess at all.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Maybe next year I'll ask for what you think a combined approach would look like. Okay. Good. Anything else from group 3?
I think our group also said something.
What group is that?
Group 3, yeah. Stratified lottery as well, maybe.
Stratified lottery.
Right.
What's that? What the heck is that? I didn't read that.
I think it was.
No, I actually saw that, but skipped it. But go ahead. I can't avoid it, but go ahead.
I think it was. I didn't propose it, but I can try. Maybe I guess to pick. I guess. In terms of need, who is the most important in terms of who needs it first, I think, right?
In terms of what?
I guess who's in most need of the
based on sickest?
Is that, I'm not.
He can defend it.
Well, I talked a little bit about the lottery because one of my issues with all the other systems is that I feel like given human nature, they're very corruptible, and so people will be choosing their friends or whatever and manipulating the time of onset to favor you or whatever, and so I
Sure.
felt like there should be some kind of lottery-esque component to the
Oh, I
to
see.
the
I see.
allocation,
Okay.
so that
All right.
it's not a, you know, based on these other principles, I think they're easily manipulated by humans with good or ill intentions.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, one way to get over that is to have strict medical criteria, right? Like, you know, white count above 18,000, or you know, something like that. Surely, 48 hours could be manipulated. Did you want to say something? No. Okay. All right. Good. So, all right. So, group 2. Yes, Emily. All right.
Okay, we had a spirited discussion. Came up with some things that we wanted to know. Not a lot of information was given about the nature and demographics of the outbreak. Is this the typical affecting the very young and the very old, or is this similar to the 1918 outbreak, which tended to affect young adults? So we went on the assumption that it was affecting primarily the young and old and not like the 1918 outbreak. Also, we didn't know about any other things that were being done in terms of social isolation, public service announcements for hand washing, school closings, other means to control the outbreak.
Well, yeah, but we're just talking about, I mean, to be sure, I'm sure, well, I mean, it's a given that there are other measures, but
Right, unlike an organ transplant where you need the heart, you need the kidney, there are other things you can do for flu.
Right, yeah, but you have the stockpile of drug,
right.
Okay, and how are you going to distribute it?
And then we also had a group member who brought up some interesting references in terms of how efficacious Tamiflu was.
Right. Yes. So you don't like the drug at all, Chris? Is that right?
I'll just put it like this: sometime in the near future, Roche will be sued for what they have done, and that's it. They've lied about 8 clinical trials, and they didn't release all the information. Sometimes they refuse to release them completely. I don't think that we can say, based on the evidence, that the drug is as effective as they say it is. The people who said the drug is effective make money from selling it to governments.
Sure, and I hear you. And but assuming that it is effective, how would you allocate it?
Then I would like our answer for choice C, actually.
What's that?
I would like, we all agreed on C.
C?
I believe. If it is efficacious, then C.
Yes.
Sounds pretty good.
And why C and not the others?
Well, just to go through, we discussed the pros and cons of each approach.
Okay, good.
Hospital A, we like the reciprocity for the healthcare workers.
Okay.
The utilitarian aspect of preserving this valuable resource of healthcare workers for their social usefulness and instrumental value. Somebody also brought up the psychological factor of the healthcare workers feeling supported by the institution that they're working for, and may make them more likely to show up for work and care for patients.
Right, yes, right.
In terms of...
They need to show up.
An interesting point. They're going to show up for work even though their hospital's full of flu patients. Cons, questionable effectiveness in terms of being used strictly for prophylaxis. There are other means of protecting healthcare workers as Hospital B and C use. The issue of drug resistance, and as one of the other groups pointed out, the patients who actually need the medication will be left untreated.
So Hospital C was your choice?
Hospital C was our choice.
Why didn't you like the fair innings approach?
We like the fair innings approach, but we went, probably the big thing for our group was effectiveness. And Hospital E, we had some concerns about, in one of the readings it talked about the medication not being effective in children possibly not being effective in children under 1.
Children under 1. So what about if we did, greater than 1, okay, and you treat the hospital people? How's that? Would you You like that then?
Probably our guiding principle was that 48-hour window of maximum effectiveness, and thinking that going off of that 48-hour window.
Okay, let's say at the 48-hour window.
Best outcomes.
Would you take Hospital E if you had less than 48 hours, greater than 1 year? You treat yeah. Let's leave that out. As much as it's hard for me to say that, but anyway, so.
And then we also talked about the value of an adolescent as opposed to a toddler. So
value of an adolescent?
As opposed an adolescent or young adult, as opposed to an 18 to 25-year-old is more valuable than a 3-year-old.
That's what one of the arguments proposed.
One of the arguments in favor of prioritizing by age.
By age, yes. That's right. I guess getting close to the productivity. Okay, so all right. So I don't want to. So again, Hospital C, right?
Yep.
So is it true? One group had Hospital E and C. It was tough for Group 3 to commit, but I think I was hearing Hospital A, right, on top of the list, right?
I think for Group 3 individually, majority of the people pick Hospital C or Hospital
C. Okay, but I heard you say A, right?
Well, with the healthcare workers being priority, but it was combined. It wasn't
combined. Okay, all right. And then the Group 2 was C. So so D. What's wrong with D? What's up with that?
It's like playing football and not having a play. Just everybody just do whatever they want. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, right. And once we don't have any more drug, then we don't have to worry about rationing, right? We're out of business. Okay. All right. So sounds good to me. What could you conclude about all this? Exercise. Well, while you're thinking about that, here's one rationing list. You can't read that, but I just want to say that in every distribution list, the workers are always there on top. You can't read that, but these are workers here, okay? And it's never like Hospital A, but you got to right principle of reciprocity. You got to treat the healthcare workers are expected to be there and show up, and for reciprocity's sake, you're gonna make sure they don't get sick, and you need staff. You need staff to take care of the sick patients. So they're always on the top of the list, and in fact, well, I mean, it's in some places it's mandatory, right? To get the flu shot, but so here's the accountability for reasonableness, and if you take a look at the 4 conditions, okay, publicity, everybody knows what goes on behind the back doors, and you have an opportunity to revise and appeal. That sounds great, and this is really the enforceable condition, right? You have some way to enforce it. So the relevance condition, it sounds nice, and the concept is that if you have the rationale will be reasonable if it appeals to evidence. That sounds good. Reasons and principles that are accepted as relevant by fair-minded people. People who believe in fairness, I guess. That's what it means. who are disposed to finding mutually justifiable terms of cooperation. Okay, so you have people at the table who's not going to beat each other up. That's what that means. So, so what do you think about that? Is it? What do you think of that? Is it going to be? Do you think you could get people together around at the table and now, if this is true, if you could get people around the table to agree on a set of principles, I guess the concept is that you get these people together, and the first thing you do is eliminate all the unreasonable reasons, right? And then the concept is that you have now you're left with like what you guys did, right? You couldn't agree on one reason, right? There it is. Okay. So you decided to have several reasons, right? And I guess to determine priority, if you're able to settle on a collection of reasons, then the only work left to do is what? Then the only work left to do is assign weights.
Yeah.
To the reasons, right? And see which one is to prioritize. Well, what could I say? Easier said than done. Several things wrong with that. One, I mean, you guys couldn't agree on things, right? And you're fair-minded people, disposed to finding mutually justifiable terms of cooperation, and you couldn't do it. You all, not that there's anything wrong with that, don't get me wrong. So it's one, it's easier said than done. Two, how do you decide which reasons are unreasonable? Do you chuck out the religious reasons? Because they...
based on the evidence.
What's that?
Based on the evidence and the reasons.
Based on the evidence and reasons and principles. So is a religious justification, does that get thrown off the table?
Depending on the cultural society.
Depending on what?
Depending on the society, which religion they follow.
Well, it's true. Depending on it, if you have a society that's all conform to the same religion, that's, I guess, a few of them. Yes.
It depends on what's at stake too. It's like the blood transfusion for, I can't remember which group of people, but you have to allow, if their child needs a blood transfusion, you have to give it to them, whether they say it's religious or not. So it matters that what's at stake as well. And
yeah, but in terms of, I mean, accepting, right? Well, point well taken, but leaving the vulnerable children aside, all I'm saying, religious reasons are not necessarily, should be off the table, okay? And then the other thing that we might discuss is you're also assuming, and the major criticism of this is that you're assuming that, well, the two things. One, everybody who's at the table are those who are needed to be at the table. No one's left out. And two, that everybody at the table have equal power in trying to determine what are fair rationing principles. So it's now having said that, I wanted to yes, right, preface that by saying, hey, here's one, not a definition of justice, but Cicero who lived in the early 20th century, said, "Justice, shall we call that which is just fair, or that which is fair just?" What does that mean? It's a lot of four-letter words in this class today, so hope you don't mind. Anyone want to tackle this one? So next week we'll talk about Rawls, and he wrote a book called Justice as Fairness. I always thought fairness was justice, but now we're talking about just and fair. This is a one could look at something as just by looking at the outcomes, or something is just if the process was fair. Okay, one way to look at this. And so the question is, if you can't decide on what is just, what would be a just outcome, then this is where these people come in and say, if you have a fair process, okay, this also assumes that you have no conception of what a just outcome is, okay, well, you go to a process. And if the process is fair, then whatever the outcome is just. Now, if you know ahead of time that you want a best outcomes, to define what just is, you're saying, like in the kidney example, okay, something is, well, we've decided we want the best outcomes. That's what our society is made out of, and that's fair. Because we think the outcomes are just, and that's fair. But if we can't decide, let's go with a process. And if the process is fair, then whatever the outcome is out of that process, you know, like, whatever it is, we say that's just. So, I mean, that's. And we'll talk about Rawls and what he thinks are the principles to decide justice. And he's talking about what kind of process. Now, having said all that, we still have more work to do. Right, so let's see what you guys did. Right, with this question here. Where is it? All right, so how did you... Right, so I want to see how you handled the pandemic flu. Right, so the following is often stated regarding the pandemic of 1918. The flu hit the rich and the poor alike. Statement true or false? So 9 people said true and 12 people said false. Okay, wow. Okay, so tell me what you're thinking about. Emily, first identify which bar.
I went for false.
False. Okay.
Yes.
Do you think the flu had some biases? Go ahead.
I think the flu did have some biases.
Okay.
Well, the rate of infection tends to be higher among people who are poor, in poorer health, overcrowded, with less access to sanitation. If you're wealthy, your sanitation is going to be better, your nutrition is going to be better, you're not going to be overcrowded. You also have the option of physical mobility. you can leave
Run
town.
away from the flu.
Leave town before the outbreak hits you.
You know, but that's what happened in Katrina, right? The wealthy people left town, right? The poor people couldn't leave.
Well, it happened in Italy during the plagues, too.
What's that?
It happened in Italy during the plagues, too. Everybody got out of
Where did the
Florence.
wealthy people go?
They went up into the hills.
Oh, the hills. Okay. All right. So, yeah, a time-tested strategy. What do you think about that? People who said it was true. Said it was true. Or were you reading something else into the question? Yes.
I said it was true because the question said, did the flu hit the rich and poor alike? And I would say that the flu doesn't discriminate. But if the question had been, did the rich and poor hit the flu alike? Then I would say no, because
did the what?
Like if you were to reverse the question and say, did the rich and poor hit the flu alike? I would say it was false. I mean, it was, false. I'm confused now, because the rich have more opportunities to, I guess, prevent the flu, but the flu itself doesn't discriminate.
Right. That's right. The flu doesn't. Right. So it. But I didn't make up that phrase. Okay, that was taken out of some whatever. After the epidemic, and actually, someone did a study. Shortly afterwards, and I'm happy to provide you with the original paper. But here's the incidence, and we have the rate, and age, and the two groups, the well-to-do and the poor and the very poor. And we see the incidence was among all age groups were higher with the poor versus the well-to-do. Yes?
Well, I think another argument, I said false as well. It was during World War I, so the soldiers that were going didn't tend to be the wealthiest of people. So they were hit hard by the flu.
The soldiers?
Yes. So I know the mortality
okay.
was high for them. So I looked at it like that as well.
Right. Okay. And then more data. The economic status. Again, the well-to-do. I guess they didn't want to call them wealthy, but well-to-do, very poor. Incidence rates were higher with the very poor. And essentially. Three things to consider. The vulnerability is firmly rooted in pre-existing vulnerability, and we'll talk more about that in next week about why it's necessary to reach out to the vulnerable groups if you want to ensure equity. And there are disparities in exposure, disparities in exposure. So talking about lower SES groups, more overcrowding with where they live in the neighborhoods. Also, when you go for medical services, the poor goes to the large waiting rooms where people are coughing all over you, as opposed to private practitioner's office and all that. Disparities in susceptibility. Emily, you were talking about, different nutritional status, health status, and then disparities in treatment, or disparities in access to treatment. So all these things, additive on unequal levels of illness and death, and So getting back to this, the influenza thing, the hospital, it is what it is, and one would hope that in an epidemic that there's a conscious attempt to go out and find the vulnerable population and make sure they have access. And just waiting for people to show up is not going to make it. But we'll talk more about that next week. I just want to switch gears, and I don't know if we're going to have time to finish this. Well, I'm going to have to send you an email. I meant to do this earlier because I'm handing out something that you don't have access to. So why don't you look at this problem here? It's and why don't you just spend this involves rationing it's another rationing problem, rationing antiretrovirals in Africa. Why don't you read through it, and let's see if I could yeah, right, so this is the here's this essentially the issue is how do you ration antiretrovirals in a developing country, and here are different criteria. Yes?
We don't have the second copy. Let me have this one. It's not enough down there.
There's two of these.
Okay. Right, is that, right, okay. So again, just read through it, and then these are different rationing criteria. Then I want you to just merely list the effect of choosing each of these criteria on the effect of clinical success, cost to implement, rationing potential, meaning whether it actually going to limit the drug, efficiency in terms of human capital, preservation, feasibility of implementation, and whether the criteria will lead to equitable access.